Well, after speculation as to whether or not this was going to hold up, we did find out that today the SAFE Act, Senate Bill 49, will go into effect here in the state of Missouri. We say hello to the Attorney General, Andrew Bailey. He joins us on KCMO Talk Radio. Mr. Attorney General, good morning. As always, appreciate the time on KCMO. So remind us, the SAFE Act, what starts today in Missouri?
Well, this puts an end to sterilization of children who suffer from gender dysphoria. I'm so proud to live in a state where our General Assembly has taken the policy position that we're going to protect kids. I've been fighting since I took office to make Missouri the safest state in the nation for children, and this law going into effect is a huge step in that direction. It ends pediatric transgender prescription of puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones that have serious negative health consequences. It stops transition surgeries that permanently sterilize kids. It creates a private cause of action for victims of this system to seek justice, and stops Medicaid dollars, stops state taxpayer dollars from going to fund this parade of horribles. So again, this is a huge win. The law was challenged by Lambda Legal and the ACLU. They asked the court to put an injunction on this law. We went to court last week, and after 3 days of evidence and argument, we prevailed. And we're the first state in the nation to be able to defend this law at the trial court level like this. So really proud of the work that we've done to protect kids here in Missouri.
Okay, so what does it mean for people who have already been on this kind of a treatment? Do they have to stop, or are they grandfathered in?
There's a grandfather clause that the General Assembly included in that statute, and so that they will still be able to receive the treatments, but it basically puts the moratorium on future patients, the victimization of future patients that we've been arguing for since I took over back in January.
And what about those who are, 18 years old and adults? How does this change, if anything, for them?
No change for adults. If they want to mutilate their bodies, there's nothing in the law that prevents that from happening. And, again, I think that what's important here is the public mood and the information that's been put into the public domain based on our work on this issue. And it's all been about shining the light of truth on this issue and getting the information out there that there's zero FDA approvals for puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones to treat gender dysphoria, that there's no clinical assessments showing the safety or effectiveness of these quote-unquote treatments. And if you look at what the judge said in the court order, the judge said that the science and medical evidence is conflicting and unclear. Accordingly, the evidence raises more questions than answers. If that's true, then that points to the fact that these are dangerous procedures and there's no medicine or science to back it up. And that's why we're fighting so hard.
Well, I just find it interesting, Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey, that, many folks who spent a long period of time using the phrase trust the science now do not have any interest in trusting the science when it comes to kids and very serious issues like this. I mean, I don't know if ironic is the right word, but I do find it interesting, if nothing else, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, 2 points to make there. Number one, it's the same left-wing quacks who told us we needed social distancing and masks during COVID, when turns out none of that was safe or effective, and a lot of the times was counterproductive. But secondly, I would point out that that's why having a hearing on this motion for preliminary injunction was so important. That's why it was so important for us to get into court and put the evidence out there in the public domain so that the judge could see it and so that the public could attend these hearings and so the lamestream media couldn't hide from it. Again, it's shining the light of truth on this subject. Make their experts take the stand, and we get to cross-examine it. And you know what they admitted? They ignored the science coming out of Europe showing that this is not safe, that it's dangerous, has long-term negative health implications. They ignore the fact that there are no clinical assessments showing that this is an effective quote-unquote treatment. Moreover, they had to acknowledge the fact that the studies they relied on were weak science. And then we put on our evidence, experts that said, why are we treating this mental health condition differently? Why are we racing towards hormone treatment for this when we don't do it in any other context? And acknowledge the fact that we put detransitioners on the stand, victims of this system, who told their stories about how they're serving a life sentence based on this, this system that has turned them into victims. And then also Jamie Reed, the whistleblower from the clinic in St. Louis that launched this entire investigation and launched this legislative effort. I mean, this is a woman who believes in transgender rights, was willing to come forward and make accusations about one of these clinics, put her name on the line, and then show up in court and undergo cross-examinations, which, again, militates in favor of her credibility. and the accusations she's making. And getting all of that out there was really important, and I think it largely contributed to why we were successful.
Now, what about, you mentioned there Europe. What is, what has come out of Europe on this front, for better or for worse, that might have been or was part of that hearing?
Well, we had internationally recognized experts who have testified to what's going on in Europe, and we use the studies coming out of Europe who have shown that many of these European nations that are far to the left of America culturally have rejected and curtailed these types of procedures because they recognized it was dangerous and it was sterilizing an entire generation of youth who were suffering from gender dysphoria. And England is a prime example. In England, there was a clinic, a small clinic, who began accepting patients with gender dysphoria and administering puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones and referring those kids for surgeries, irreversible surgeries. And then suddenly the number of referrals to the clinic grew exponentially. And it wasn't until some serious problems at the clinic were exposed by a whistleblower there that the English government was able to put a stop to it. And so similarly, look at what's happened here in Missouri. I mean, this was going on, and there was a whistleblower that came forward from a clinic in St. Louis that caused us to launch an investigation, the first of its kind in the nation, call for a moratorium, expose a shadowy network of clandestine clinics that are promoting this kind of mutilation across the state of Missouri, and then our General Assembly acted to put a stop to it, and we were able to defend that action in court. And so Europe is really demonstrative of how dangerous this can be, and if they've put a stop to it, even though they're far to the left of America culturally, then certainly we're on the right side of this issue now.
So what about Andrew Bailey, Missouri's Attorney General, on KCMO? What about how you keep an eye on this now within the state of Missouri? Are you going to be reliant on basically whistleblower employees at some of these clinics, making sure any kids getting treated are ones who have been grandfathered in?
Yeah, I mean, there are systems in place now to protect consumers in this marketplace, and certainly we'll take any action necessary to protect Missourians. But I'll also point out that SB 49 has a provision in it that gives a private cause of action to individuals who have been victimized by this and extends the statute of limitations in which they can bring suits to receive damages for the long-term negative health consequences they suffer at the hands of these individuals who are masquerading as clinicians, this left-wing woke ideology masquerading as medicine. And so the individuals have a right to pursue remedies on their own. And our General Assembly has put that codified that policy position in law to empower those victims.
Wow. Okay. So people who are detransitioning could theoretically bring a lawsuit against their doctors that they used. I use that doctor's word in air quotes, of course. They could bring lawsuits against those folks. So in many ways, is it an attempt to, and I hate to put it this way, but scare some of these people out of doing this kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the law forbids it. And so if they're going to do it illegally, then we need the patients who are suffering to be able to bring suits to receive compensation on their own. Mm-hmm. That's a great method of having a chilling effect on these procedures. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this is illegal, and we're going to use the apparatus of state government to put a stop to it.
Attorney General, we appreciate what you're doing, and thank you for joining us here on KCMO Talk Radio. Always great to have you on.
Hey, thanks, Pete. All the best to you and your listeners. Thanks for having me on.
You as well. That's Andrew Bailey on KCMO Talk Radio.